Once upon a time, in a quaint little village, there lived a dog named Bruno. Bruno was not an ordinary dog. He had the most vivid brown fur and a wagging tail that never stopped. But Bruno had one flaw. He was terribly greedy. He always wanted more than what he needed. One sunny afternoon, Bruno was trotting through the village with a juicy bone in his mouth. He had found it in the butcher's bin and was over the moon with joy. Off he went, crossing fields and streams, heading towards his favorite spot under the old oak tree by the river. As Bruno approached the river, he peered into the clear, blue water. To his surprise, he saw another dog staring back at him. This dog had a bone too, and it looked even juicier than his. Bruno, being as greedy as he was, decided he must have that bone as well. He barked ferociously at the other dog. As he did, the bone in his mouth slipped and plummeted into the river with a splash. Bruno jumped back, startled, and realized that there was no other dog. It was just his reflection in the water. His precious bone was now gone, swallowed by the rushing river. Bruno sat by the riverside, ears drooping and tail still, lamenting his greed. With a heavy heart, Bruno walked back home, realizing he learned a valuable lesson. That very day, Bruno promised himself never to let greed take over his heart again. He understood that wanting more than what one needs can often lead to losing everything. And from that day forward, Bruno became known in the village as the wise dog who shared his treats with others, bringing happiness not only to himself but to everyone around him. Quaint village surrounded by lush green fields and gentle hills. There lived a young and curious rabbit named Ricky. His coat was as white as the clouds in the sky, and his eyes sparkled with the light of 1,000 stars. Ricky was always bustling around the meadow, finding new adventures and solving small puzzles that entertained his brilliant mind. One sunny afternoon, while Ricky was hopping through the village, he stumbled upon something peculiar, a troublesome twig lying in his path. It was crooked and seemed to poke out from the ground in an obstinate manner, refusing to be ignored. Now, Ricky had a peculiar habit of wanting to fix what he deemed imperfect, and that morning, he decided this twig needed straightening. With a push and a tug, he attempted to make the twig align with the ground. But the twig was stubborn. Ricky tugged and yanked, growing more and more frustrated. A wise old tortoise named Terry was sunbathing nearby and noticed Ricky's struggle. With a slow, deliberate gait, Terry approached. "Why do you wrestle with the twig, young Ricky?" he asked, his voice as deep as a burrow. "It's being difficult, and I want it to be straight." Ricky replied, still struggling. Terry chuckled softly. "Oh, dear child, allow me to share a lesson," he began. "In life, there will always be troublesome twigs. They might appear in the form of problems or disagreeable situations, but not all need to be fixed or changed by your hand. Sometimes, it is wisdom not to conquer, but to accept and move on." Ricky paused, pondering Terry's words. He released the twig and took a step back. The twig stayed as it was, yet Ricky felt a strange sense of relief. "You see," Terry continued, "life isn't about having everything perfect. It's about embracing imperfections and learning which twigs to let be." From that day forward, Ricky learned to look at life's challenges with a different perspective. Some problems did need solving, but others merely required acceptance. He found peace in knowing he couldn't straighten every twig, but learned instead to hop around them joyfully. And so, Ricky shared his newfound wisdom with his friends, and the meadow was not just a place of beauty, but one of understanding and contentment, thanks to the wise counsel of the old tortoise and the insights of a curious yet growing rabbit.